And yes, welcome to anyone out there watching live and also later in the recording. My name's Taylor Coburn. I'm here with my friends, mentors, and colleagues, Marc Difrancia, Meehir Patel, and Stanley Fisher. And this is our podcast, Notes on Conscious Leadership. We're a group of everyday conscious leaders who are creating a global movement called Everyday Conscious Leadership. And I'm going to let Marc lay out a little bit more of the vision for that. But for sure, this podcast is where we get together and we share notes on, how we're consciously leading ourselves in our everyday lives and in everyday situations. So today, our main topic is defining everyday conscious leadership. And you're in for a treat. So sit back and relax. And welcome, guys. Welcome back. And let's kick it off. Marc, would you like to enroll us in our vision for our movement and our show today?
Yeah, sure. Everyday conscious leadership, every time we say it, people go, what does that mean? So we decided to address it today because it's, to me, it's the simplest of concepts, and yet it seems to escape people that in every situation, every day, in every situation, every person is either going to be in a leadership position or a following position. And we're asking people to bring consciousness to everyday situations, and to decide consciously, am I going to lead or be part of the leadership of this, or am I going to follow? And following is its own type of leadership. I mean, you can follow unconsciously, and that has its own set of outcomes. But we're asking people to follow consciously, which means presenting, a unified front and moving in unison with the leader towards the end results or the goals, the destination that the leader's trying to take you to. And then as far as the lead, being the leader, look, whether you're, making a decision about who you're voting for, whether you're dealing with a toddler's tantrum, or if you're, dealing with a bully at work or something along that line, you're going to be expected to lead yourself, or somebody is going to lead that situation. Let's put it this way. You've got a bully at work. They're giving you a hard time. They're leading that situation right then and there. But they're leading unconsciously. They're leading from reaction. We're asking, when you find yourself in that situation, to be able to take control of the situation, lead not from reaction, but lead from conscious decision, and bring the outcome to the best outcome for everybody involved, even the person that's bullying you. And sometimes the best outcome for the bully is to be taken down a notch, and sometimes the best outcome for the bully is to be made more conscious, so that they can join you in the vision. Yeah, bullies maybe not, but that's the premise of everyday conscious leadership. We found this during lockdown, really. A bunch of people got thrown into situations that they had not been in. We did a series during lockdown called Being the Pace Car, which is our way of saying being an everyday conscious leader. And during that time, we were working with a lot of people. We did 25 episodes. We did over 50 hours of this. And because we found people were suddenly put into leadership positions that they didn't expect within their own families. They were locked down. Now they're teachers. Not only are they teachers, but they might be locked in with a spouse. One woman was locked in with a spouse that traveled all the time. He was physically abusive, but he traveled all the time, so it wasn't a big problem for the relationship. But then he gets locked in, and now she has to figure out how to guide herself and her family through this situation that she's never actually been in this way. Because all of us, every one of us, will be called to lead throughout the day, every day. And so that's why we call it everyday conscious leadership. we're inviting you to join us in becoming more conscious about the way you move through life, and more conscious as to whether you're leading to a specific destination, following to a specific destination, and whether you're doing either of those functionally. Yeah, that's my bit.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's a great kickoff. To jump on that, Marc, one of the areas I had to improve when it came to my everyday conscious leadership was to not be so codependent, white knight, save everybody. I was very conflict avoidant, not just at work, but at home, because I was afraid of, any backlash or nastiness, especially growing up in an environment where I was being abused by a parent, and stepping outside of that was uncomfortable. But when I really started to own my personal power and show up in that kind of vibration, everything changed for me across the board.
Okay, I can't stand silence, so I'll be the first.
Yeah, no, I was just taking a minute for if anyone wanted to say something in between. So, what's really important about what I've come to learn about leadership, and especially the way that I've come to learn it and make it part of who I am and part of my being, namely through the work that I've done with Creative Self-Mastery, the work that I've done with Marc and Stan over these last we're approaching nearly 8 years in the trenches together. It's leadership is, I think that there is a foundational way to do leadership, and that's what we're making a claim that there is a way to do leadership consciously. And leadership is not just reserved for people that have the titles or are in positions of authority or anything like that. Leadership is something that it is a skill that should be cultivated if you're basically a human being, because it gives you an experience of not only kind of wielding your power in a functional way and engaging your will and engaging your focus, but we live in a world where as human beings, we're socialized, we have relationships, and we're interconnected. And you need, we can either default on being controlling or being controlled. And what we're trying to sort of invite you to think about is that there is a much more healthier option where you can actually lead in a powerful way and you can follow in a powerful way. And ultimately, you can serve by your leadership. You can serve by using certain tools and certain things that we will talk about on on this show, Notes of Conscious Leadership. But ultimately, it's about moving the energy to the best possible direction for all. And that can mean, a whole bunch of things. But just like as Marc mentioned, when we did the pace car calls back in 2020 during lockdown, that's ultimately what we were asking people to do. Is like, look, you're going to have to accept reality exactly how it is right now. You can either fight it, you can tolerate it, and you can kind of just put up resistance to it and just keep experiencing a really dysfunctional, unhealthy sort of dynamic within your household, within your relationships, within your communities, within your families. But there's in your businesses, and there's a much more powerful option where you can start moving the energy to the best possible direction for all. And that's what we mean by when it comes to like being the pace car and setting the pace. So it not just serves you and getting your outcomes, getting your needs met and get your desires and getting your truth actualized, but also somewhere along the line, it's a reciprocal experience where the other parties also get their needs, desires, and results met as well.
Yeah, and this is what we're talking about, everyday conscious leadership. Marc mentioned consciousness, and you dropped the word dysfunctional, I think, Meehir. And that would be like a question I think would be great for us to explore together for those listening is, what is the difference between functional and dysfunctional leadership? What do we mean by that? What do we mean by moving the energy in the direction that's going to create the best outcome for all? For me, those two things are kind of linked together. Correct me if, I'm wrong there.
I'll field this at first. Look, we, myself, Stanley, Meehir, I've been part of a group that I founded about 8 years ago, as Meehir mentioned, called Creative Self-Mastery. Taylor is an affiliate coach with Creative Self-Mastery. And the ECL movement, that is a group that we're starting that is, for anybody who's interested in this topic, interested in becoming a better leader. Whether it's every day or in business or whatever, interested in becoming a more conscious leader, then we're trying to direct people to this group, Everyday Conscious Leadership. But at Creative Self-Mastery, we've been teaching personal leadership for years. Personal leadership, and if you want to talk about functional or dysfunctional, think about every person you know. They either handle themselves functionally or dysfunctionally. When they're dysfunctional, they're in their thoughts and feelings, they're reactive, they're going on, they're working to prove core beliefs, and they're working on, and they're working from limited beliefs and negative vision. They're operating from lack. They're not in service. You want to think about dysfunctional leaders. I think, historically, we can mention a lot of dysfunctional leaders, and dysfunctional, and personally, we know a lot of dysfunctional people. We're talking about people who are not working on any level, or not succeeding, maybe, in being conscious, right? Consciousness is about making good decisions, not based on thoughts and feelings, or emotion, but based on structure. Structure will never disappoint you. Structure will never let you down. And when you base your decisions on structure, you make good, solid decisions, working from the field of everything that you understand, your orientation, your location, where you are, and knowing everything about where you're located helps you to get to where you're going, your destination. And so having a good sense of what your limitations are, and being able to move around those limitations, that's part of being a functional leader. When we talk about moving the energy to the best outcome for everybody involved, it's a functional move. These are things that are designed from service not to ourselves and to our egoic agenda, but service to the best outcome for everyone, not for you, for everyone. And sometimes we have to accept that part of the best outcome means that some things will become collateral damage. We have to let go of our attachments to things. We have to be able to move fluidly. We have to be able to move in service to the end result. So functional leadership. Look at functional people. Look at God, I'm stuck for examples. I'm sure I have dozens of examples. I'm stuck for them right at to have them at the tip of my tongue.
Well, there's one popping up for me. This year, I was working in a full-time job. I'm full-time self-employed now, but I was let go, and it was the team. Felt that there was something not working between all of us, right? And they chose to, instead of sort of sitting down and having a look at where we were going and the vision that they wanted to actually work towards, they decided to sort of cut me out as like the problem and solve the problem. And so that's one that's popping up while you're talking, because I've seen it a lot of times in workplaces, not just when people get let go or fired, but also when people quit jobs. So from both sides, that when Marc's talking about operating from our thoughts and feelings, sometimes we often, we take a lot of things personally, or we assume a lot. And then when we're in a job, we think like, oh, well, that person just tutted at me in a certain way. And that means that I don't know, this is a toxic workplace, so I better get out of here and get a new job. And so, but in the end of the day, if we fire someone or quit, we're not always actually looking at, well, how is this going to create an outcome that's going to benefit me, but also the people that I was meeting at the job, or even my customers, if you're like a project manager, or all the stakeholders involved, just in terms of the corporate world. That's what pops up for me, because, if I could go back to earlier this year, I would have done things a lot differently if I was more conscious at that point. And now that I've been working to raise my conscious awareness of, like what Marc said, my shortcomings, my dysfunctionality that all of us possess, I would have done things a lot differently to move the energy in a different direction from my side, which also would have supported perhaps the people who let me go to move the energy also for a better outcome for everyone involved. That's what comes to my mind.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's a definition, or an example of something you've experienced. I'm trying to give the people out there an idea, like, and I was stuck for names. I don't know why. Usually I get stuck for anything, but I was stuck for names when it comes to talking anyway. I'm usually pretty nonstop.
Is this functional leaders?
Yeah, so functional leaders, and I'm going whoa, I'm struggling to find them.
But yeah,
well, that's why we're here.
But see, but I think that's a. I'm not surprised you're stumbling a little bit, because in the world, it's usually it's the leaders who are not, outstanding bastions of consciousness, or are there to serve the people. They're the ones who stands out. It's the dysfunctional leaders that kind of usually catch a name for themselves for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think with functional leadership, I think people default in that's how you're supposed to lead. So we're not going to make a whole sort of, news article on you. But I would say that, if we take out, people in the public eye or in the zeitgeist or whatever, I think there is a baseline, there is a foundation of what we know is functional. I think, healthy, let's even just boil it down to like simple relationships that we have, like our, a parent-child relationship, or, good friends, or a mentor and a mentee, or a coach and a client. There's so many examples of healthy leadership, healthy stewardship that's supremely functional. And that kind of needs to be put in the spotlight, so that, functional leadership is not like some pariah or some, pipe dream. This is happening all the time. It's just that here at Everyday Conscious Leadership, we have, as Marc mentioned earlier, it's not a case of feeling good or thoughts and feelings. There is a structure, there is a unique system on how to cultivate powerful, functional, healthy leadership skills. And so really what we can do is maybe articulate what we define as a functional leader based on what we asked when we train and when we coach other leaders, other coaches, but also people that are part of our communities that need to show up as a leader in certain contexts as well. So maybe we can kind of throw that down a little bit for our people.
Yeah. Well, I can say that one of the things I had to work on to be a more functional leader in my everyday life, especially in the face of my family, was to stop taking everything so inherently personal. Because as soon as
Hallelujah.
I'd wrap into that story, then I also, in my misbehavior, would get, take it so personal. I'd attack. I'd prove, like, you don't do that to me, and I'd get spiteful, is what I'm trying to say. And in the face of my family last year, we were working with my nephew to keep him out of the gutter with his thoughts, but also his behavior. He was a senior last year, and some stuff was going on within the family, and he wasn't as focused. So my sister asked me to get involved and help him with his senior year and his theatrical. He wanted to focus on theatrical so he can go get a theatrical degree. Long story short, we got him through the threshold. But there were times I was really challenged in the face of my family and wanting to be angry or frustrated with the way that they were showing up, and to stay out of that energy and to stay focused on the end result of what I wanted. I ended up having what was obvious, a very powerful conversation with them to move the energy to the best outcome involved. And instead of having singleized conversations with one another, it was obvious to me to go, we need to have a conversation as a whole family. It's time that we have the conversation we're denying ourselves. And that's when the dial moved, is when I got everyone involved, and I was able to demonstrate my love, but also directness, and not take it personal, but what my vision was for my nephew and how I was going to be involved in it. And over the weekend, I had my first conversation with my nephew. Now that he's in college, he got accepted into a big theatrical school up in New Jersey. And we had a conversation about the life he's living. And it was more of a conversation of an uncle sharing a moment with his nephew, and his nephew sharing a moment with his uncle, instead of it feeling like, I'm there to fix something. I'm there to alter something or to manipulate. It was nothing like that. It was just a very clean, healthy relationship that's developed because of the way I served him and the family.
Well, you're on to something, Stan. You know, we don't take it personally. Functional leaders don't take it personally, for sure. Functional leaders don't make assumptions either. This is one of the biggest things that gets in the way of leadership, I think, is that we assume that we know, and therefore we tend not to be curious. And if we're not curious, we don't ask questions. And if we don't ask questions, then we just basically run on our assumptions. Our assumptions are, you know, based on our thoughts and feelings. They're based on emotion. And so again, you're moving then for, you know, on your emotion, not on something structural. So we don't work from assumption. You know, we ask questions and we get solid answers. You know, you were saying we don't take things personal. We don't take things personally, and you know, and of course, you know, we don't, because again, thoughts and feelings. Yeah, if you're taking it personally, you're operating from thoughts and feelings, not from structure.
Do you have a
Go ahead.
Do you have an example of a more, because I know we're taking quite personal examples, but also here at Everyday Conscious Leadership, we want to talk about, like, you know, examples that are quite proliferated. Did you come up with a name?
I think, okay, like here's the problem with calling somebody a functional leader is you don't really know, right? Because you're going from what you see, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's why we talk about ourselves, right? Most of the time.
Exactly, because I can tell you all the ways that I'm dysfunctional. Well, not probably all, but most. But now, you know, but if I'm going for, you know, public figures, I don't know. I can't really be sure. Was Nelson Mandela a functional leader? Probably. He did a lot of good in the world, but did he do it functionally? I don't know. I mean, from the stories, yes, but from the people that were working with him, maybe not. I don't know. You know, Mother Teresa, right? She gets a really bad rap these days. She was a god when she was alive. Everybody said Mother Teresa, you know, she's a saint on earth.
Yeah.
After she passed, everybody was like, she was a bitch. Yeah, and she probably was.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talk about she was a bitch, but define bitch. Maybe she was just a woman who was applied and was going to get her end result and bring the outcome to the best outcome for everybody. And maybe the people that called her a bitch are the ones that were collateral damage in that, who were working against the outcome or not necessarily an asset to the outcome, and they ended up collateral damage, so they called her a bitch. Or maybe she was just miserable to work with because, you know, she was hungry.
Her style.
All the time. Huh?
I said just her style, but then you said something even more.
I mean, she could be hungry and hot and, you know, working with a bunch of lepers. So, you know, not always things that are going to put you in a cheerful mood. But you know, again, sometimes I think it's you know, easier if we go with, you know, like fictional functional leaders, because then we know exactly how they led, right? So if I say to you, you know, Dumbledore was a functional leader, you know, if you know the Harry Potter stories, you know that Dumbledore was a functional leader. If you know, Gandalf, you know, Gandalf was a functional leader. Yeah. Jon Snow from
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. We got thorns. Thrones.
Game of Thorns.
Game of Thorns. Jon Snow was a functional leader. Yeah, not all the time, but that was his journey, right? He was the journey into functional leadership, right? A lot of times we saw him making decisions based on thoughts and feelings, and we saw that those didn't work out very well for him. And we saw him making decisions based on structure and intuition, and then he stepped into his true leadership. Yeah. But John was always working. Well, he wasn't. Eventually, he began working for the best outcome for everyone. Yeah. So there's a couple of functional leaders. I had to go fictional because I'm not even sure that we have any real functional leaders in the world.
I don't know either. Like, one of my favorite athletes is Michael Jordan, and watching the games, watching the press over the years, and then, you see it in one view, and then when his documentary came out, and you're watching what really happened behind the scenes, I'm like, this dude punched his own players in the face during practice because they weren't showing up the way he wanted. And I'm like, man, can you imagine? Like, this person they call Jesus is punching people.
Well, that's a really good point, though, because is functional leadership determined by the fact that you got your end result, or is it determined by the fact that you got your end result functionally?
Yeah.
Anybody can get an end result. Donald Trump gets end results. Adolf Hitler got end results. Not equating the two, just came to my head.
Taylor Swift.
But Taylor Swift gets results. I don't know if Taylor Swift is as functional as she seems. She seems functional. Who knows? But I know that if I'm looking historically at Adolf Hitler, I'm going to put him in the non-functional category. And so, because we know that he came very close, at least, to getting his end result. But he certainly did get his end result. If his end result was the annihilation of Jews, millions of Jews were annihilated. That he may not have taken over the world, but he did get his end result of killing and annihilating the Jews. Yeah. Was that a functional end result? No. Was he a functional person? No. But did he get his end result? Yes. So could you say he was a functional leader? No. You could just say he was a leader that got his end results? Yes. So there are lots of leaders that get their end results. It's the methods they're using. Are they using conscious methods to get their end results, or are they just operating? Everybody at this point has identified Adolf Hitler as having a complex and being needing to make up for all of his inadequacies and all of this. Thoughts and feelings, right? So good leadership operates outside of what's right for the leader, and operates in what's best for everyone and what brings out the best outcome for everyone. I can't really say that Hitler brought out the best outcome for everybody, but he did get his end result for himself. Yeah. And that's the problem with any real person that we have as an example of a functional leader. We may find out later that they're not. Maybe they were just really good at getting their end results. Yeah. Doesn't make them, that doesn't make them functional or conscious.
Which is another great reason to, build yourself as an everyday conscious leader more consciously and intuitively, and in the way that, we're exploring ourselves, and also, wanting to spread awareness of with this movement that we're creating together. Because not only can you kind of fall, dare I say the word, victim to other people's dysfunctional leadership, but then you can also become and be a dysfunctional leader yourself. And most of the time, the people who are dysfunctional, as I'm coming to see it, they're just not consciously aware. And so the more that we're learning about ourselves, and we're learning about, how we're actually sort of creating our perception of reality, the more we can actually be in service to our own dreams and end results, and also those of others around us. And it can just be all around like a really nice, loving, good time. So that's what I wanted to say and add to the definition of everyday conscious leadership, because that's what I'm going for.
Well, just one little adjustment there, because this is actually common too. You say loving good time. It may not be a good time.
Sometimes
it'll be loving, but it may be a good time. Not everything that's worth doing is easy.
Yeah.
No.
Definitely not.
And so sometimes it's not going to be a good time, but it will be. More functional, and you're likely to get to your end result. When people are leading consciously and functionally, we stand a much better chance of it working out for everybody involved. Yeah. Guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg for the conversation, right? So this is just our definition of conscious leadership. Moving forward in the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about, the importance of having a vision, and a destination or an end result, a place to go with that vision. Orientation. Where are we starting? What's our location? And and what's playing out for us, functionally, dysfunctionally, what's going on in our brains, what's the structure that's available to us, kind of taking this, an assessment to get orientated as to where our starting point is. Thoughts and feelings versus structure, something else we'll be talking about. I mentioned that a lot today. That we'll be going into that in detail in the weeks to come. Structure over emotions, and harmonizing with the energies around you. This is one you're not going to want to miss, because you don't hear a lot about this. But harmonizing with the energies around you isn't about being a pushover, and it isn't about just going with the flow. It's actually about moving consciously with the things that are working. We'll have a much more intimate conversation about that going on. And then finally, to me, we're putting it last, but it's the most important thing, because actually everything about conscious leadership centers around this particular subject: service. And there's a lot of misconception out there about what service is, and a lot of people confuse servitude with service, and we are not talking about servitude. We are talking about service. We are talking about, again, moving the energy to the best outcome for everybody, in service to everyone, in service to the end results, in service to being a conscious leader. Yeah?
Yes.
Service. Yeah. So those are some of the things we're going to be talking about in the weeks to come. These are short conversations. We do a lot of work on this stuff in the real world. If you ever want to join us and get involved in these conversations in depth, and you really want to be part of the movement, maybe even run your own hub, then you want to join us, the Everyday Conscious Leadership on School.
Yeah, but you join through our website. You can choose whatever hub is closest to you right now. Or you can also join generally, and then you get an invitation to our private community that's using the platform called School. All of it's free, and you can come. I'll let you finish, actually, Marc.
Well, yeah. I mean, no.
Yeah.
Admin and tech, not my strong suits. So I don't know. It's School. Apparently, we're going to be on School. And we're going to, we're asking people to kind of join us. We're creating community. We actually have a community now of, I don't know, again, admin, 200 or 400,
Around 400.
Around 400, yeah. So we've got 400, yeah, we just got 200 new people, that's right. We're growing quickly. We brought 200 members in recently in the last 6 months or so, and so we want to bring more people, but we do want you to be invested. We want you to want to be a conscious leader. We're not looking to just create a community of people that sign up and don't get involved. This is going to be a hands-on community, where we're going to have in-depth conversations, where we're going to have challenges with each other, where we're going to ask people to participate in joint ventures and things like that. Anything we can do to move conscious leadership forward as a concept, because it's time, folks. We need some conscious leadership. Yeah. I'm pretty sure at this point there isn't anybody out there that isn't saying, God, on some level, I am a victim to poor leadership.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you, Marc, for laying that out. Basically, what we're going to be talking about for this next season, this next few 6 weeks, actually. And yes, if you want to sign up, www.everydayconsciousleadership.com. Go there, pick a hub that's closest to you. And yeah, if you don't get further, just write us at admin@everydayconsciousleadership.com, and we will get back in touch with you for sure. And yeah, that kind of wraps up our episode for today. So thank you all for being here. Thank you guys as well, Stanley, Meehir, and Marc. Always fun to do these shows with you. Yeah. And I'm excited to keep creating it together. We're also all right now live and in your view, whoever's watching this, consciously leading ourselves in this creation of this podcast. So you get more of this in the community as well, because we really we go there, and we're very we do our best to operate as authentically and directly as possible. So It's a space that you don't want to miss out on, honestly. So, all right, then thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week at the same time. And yeah, any parting words from the guys?
I think I've said enough.
I'll just quickly build on what Marc said at the end, just around where we're at with leadership in general. Look, I think this, as we said, there's so many examples of dysfunctional leadership. This is an opportunity to kind of put a stamp on your own what your version of leadership is, which especially, namely, I think human beings in general have a functional leadership style, but I think this is a way to actually really sort of cement it. And we no longer have to abdicate our powers to the dysfunctional leaders anymore. This is an opportunity to kind of take some of that power back and kind of rewrite some of the stories that we have and rewrite history where, together globally, we create a community where we kind of set the pace differently going forward, where the power is not in the hands of the few, but in the hands of the many. This is one of the big parts of being an everyday conscious leader. So absolutely come along. We're all about having a good time, but we're also about, just really kind of making a difference more than anything. So if that's something that speaks to you, yeah, come on over to school and just register your interest, and you automatically get an account and all that good stuff. Yeah, me and Taylor are the tech people. So what Marc said is absolutely correct. It was going to work anyway. So you said everything right. But yeah, please come along, man. This is we would love to have you there, and we would love to share more of this vision and get you all enrolled. I think there's something available for everybody.
I do actually have something to add, because Taylor's been mentioning the hubs, and I just want to say, when she says if there's a hub near you, sign up for a hub near you. That the reason we're saying it that way is because if you are near a hub, then we do in-person events as well. So we want you to be able to have access to that. Like, for instance, if you want to be working, I work with horses. I teach leadership through horses. If you're in the Asheville area or anywhere near the Asheville area, or you're willing to travel to the Asheville area, then you can come, out here and experience everyday conscious leadership with horses. And so each hub has its own kind of flavor and its own focus. So if you are located near a hub, you might want to join that particular hub. And also, if you're interested in starting a hub, let us know. Yeah?
Yes. Thanks for adding that. Stanley, do you have parting words?
Yes. You're not a victim to your circumstances. You can choose to live and have a powerful, magical experience today if that's what you want. And if you need answers on that, come find us. We can serve you.
Beautiful.
Brilliant.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you. And I just waved while I said that, and see you next week. I'm going to hit the stop button now.